The storm over Orion Gate was not made of rain or wind, but of energy, fire and plasma bursts, carving blue veins through the black sky. The alien armada of the Taar'Ven Dominion had surrounded the human colony world, their siege ships hanging in orbit like carrion birds waiting for the final blow. Inside the battered human base, Commander Aria Vale wiped soot from her face and stared at the tactical display. It showed hundreds of red dots, enemy ground units, closing in from the east, their movements precise, almost mechanical. Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Rafe Anders, slammed his fist against the console. "They're playing with us. Their shields deflect everything we've got. Rockets, lasers, even fusion grenades." Aria didn't reply immediately. Her eyes lingered on a blinking marker deep within the mountain pass, the last untested weapon prototype from Earth's defense labs. Project Titan. "Not everything," she said softly. "We still have kinetic options." Rafe turned, incredulous. "You mean the railgun? That thing's a museum piece. It takes half an hour to charge and it doesn't rely on energy fields," Aria interrupted. "Their shields are designed for plasma and photon-based attacks. They're useless against pure mass moving fast enough." A rumble shook the ground. The Taar'Ven's massive crawler tanks were in sight now, spider-like behemoths bristling with glowing shield generators. Aria grabbed her helmet and locked it on. "We'll make it work. Load the railgun." Middle, the general and the human. The Taar'Ven commander, General Zelkor, stood atop a shimmering command dais in his dropship, observing the battlefield below through holographic lenses. His sleek, insectoid form gleamed under the ship's interior lights. Tall, elegant, lethal. "Human resistance patterns are deteriorating," one of his sub-commanders buzzed. "We will breach their final line within 3 cycles. Ensure their leader is captured alive," Zelkor said, his mandibles twitching in amusement. "The female commander. I want to see what kind of mind defies inevitability." He turned toward the planet's surface. The humans had proven annoyingly resilient. Their weapons were crude, their armor primitive, yet their tactics carried a strange efficiency. Unpredictable, desperate, effective. And then came the tremor. A pulse from the mountain ridge. Faint at first, but rising to a frequency that made the alien instruments flicker. "General!" a tech officer clicked. "A massive magnetic surge. Terrestrial origin." Zelkor's eyes narrowed. "Identify." The officer hesitated. "Unknown configuration. No energy signature detected. It's purely kinetic." Zelkor laughed, a chittering sound. "Kinetic? Do they think to throw rocks at our shields?" He activated his command channel, opening a live broadcast to the human outpost. Moments later, Aria's holographic projection flickered into his control room. Her armor scuffed, her expression unyielding. "Commander Vale," Zelkor said with regal disdain. "You persist in your futile defense. You must know your weapons cannot pierce our shields." Aria smirked. "Maybe not before. But tell me, General, how do your shields handle physics?" He tilted his head. "Physics? Yeah," she said, locking around into the railgun's loading chamber far behind her. "You know, mass times acceleration. The railgun awakens." The railgun was monstrous. A kilometer-long weapon embedded within the mountain itself. Its dual magnetic rails glowed faint blue as technicians scrambled around, making last-minute calibrations. "Capacitors at 80%, Rafe reported. "Any higher and we risk a full meltdown." "Push it to 95, Aria ordered. "If this works, we won't need a second shot." Rafe hesitated. "And if it doesn't?" Aria looked toward the valley, where the alien legions marched in shimmering formation. Then we'll make sure our last shot is one they never forget. The mountain vibrated as the magnetic fields built strength. The air shimmered with static, and metal tools began to lift off the floor. A low hum turned into a howl, rattling the teeth of everyone within a kilometer radius. Aria took position at the targeting console. Her voice came through every comm channel on the base. Humanity doesn't surrender. Not to technology, not to tyrants, and definitely not to smug insect generals. Let's show them what Newton really meant. Target locked, Rafe said. Main power diverted. Fire! The railgun screamed. A brilliant arc of light tore across the battlefield. Not energy, but raw velocity. The slug, a tungsten rod weighing nearly a ton, accelerated to Mach 35 in less than a second. The ground cracked from the recoil, and a shockwave ripped through the valley. The alien front line didn't have time to react. The first tank's shield flared blue, then shattered like glass. The slug continued through 3 more vehicles, a dozen soldiers, and finally impacted the central command spire. The resulting explosion was silent for a heartbeat, and then came the thunder. The shattering. Zelkor's dropship was hurled sideways by the blast. Consoles exploded in showers of sparks, and several aids were vaporized instantly. The general struggled to stabilize the ship, his senses overwhelmed by static and heat. "Status," he demanded. "No response from ground units," shouted a technician. The shield matrix collapsed. Kinetic overload. Zelkor froze. The impossible had happened. No energy weapon could have done that. Only brute force, unmitigated by their defenses. He opened the comm again, his voice filled with rage. "Commander Vale, what have you done?" On his holographic display, Aria stood amid smoke and debris, a grim smile cutting through the soot on her face. "Just balancing the equation, General." Zelkor bared his fangs. "You think one primitive slug changes your fate? My fleet still orbits above. My armies are endless." "Then you'd better start building better shields," Aria said. "Because I've got 5 more slugs ready to go." The feed cut. Retaliation from the sky. The alien fleet reacted instantly. Orbital cannons unleashed torrents of plasma, striking the mountain with blinding fury. The railgun trembled under the bombardment. Inside the bunker, systems failed one after another. Rafe coughed through smoke. "We can't hold this position. The reactors are overheating." "Keep them stable," Aria shouted, manually resetting breakers. "We need just one more shot." But then the ceiling cracked, and a beam of molten plasma seared through the wall, vaporizing 2 crew members. The base's AI voice chimed calmly. "Warning. Containment breach. Estimated structural collapse in 2 minutes." Aria gritted her teeth. "Fine. 2 minutes is enough." Outside, Zelkor descended in a personal assault craft, his armor gleaming red-hot from atmospheric re-entry. He landed on the smoldering plateau, his claws slicing through the ash. "Commander Vale!" His amplified voice roared across the battlefield. "Face me. Surrender your weapon, and I may grant your kind mercy." Aria emerged from the bunker, her armor blackened but intact. She carried a pulse pistol on her hip, useless against his shields, but she didn't intend to shoot him. "You know," she said, "for a species that prides itself on intellect, you sure underestimate human persistence." Ulker sneered. "Persistence without power is futility." "Funny," she said, raising a small control unit. "I was just about to say the opposite." The final shot. The railgun fired again. This time, the projectile wasn't tungsten. It was a compressed core of depleted uranium, heavier, denser, and laced with microfusion triggers. The mountain itself cracked as the slug exited the barrel, turning the atmosphere into plasma from sheer friction. It struck Zelkor's assault ship dead center, vaporizing the upper half and hurling the general into the ground. The explosion that followed lit the sky for miles, carving a crater into the valley. Silence fell. Aria staggered, helmet cracked, and looked up at the smoking wreckage. The general lay amid the rubble, his armor shattered, his glowing eyes dim. He tried to rise. "You are monsters." Aria knelt beside him. "No, we're survivors. That's the difference." He reached for her, claws twitching, then fell still, ending echoes of the railgun. Days later, rescue ships from the Human Alliance arrived at Orion Gate. The alien fleet had retreated, their orbital superiority broken when the railgun's magnetic pulse fried their command systems. Aria stood on the ridge, overlooking the valley where thousands of alien machines lay in ruin. The mountain gun was silent now, its rails cracked and molten. Rafe approached, limping but smiling. "Fleet Command says you just rewrote the doctrine for planetary defense." Aria shrugged. "We just proved shields aren't everything. Sometimes old physics beats new arrogance." He chuckled. "What'll you call it? The weapon that broke the unbreakable." She looked at the wreckage below, thinking, "Let history name it. We'll just remember it as the day the universe learned a simple truth." "And what's that?" She smiled faintly. "Never underestimate kinetic energy." The wind carried away the last traces of smoke as dawn broke over Orion Gate. The railgun's scorched barrel pointed toward the stars, silent but victorious. Epilogue: the message. Weeks later, across the Taar'Ven Dominion, encrypted transmissions echoed through their networks. An intercepted human broadcast was spreading, a video of Commander Vale standing before the wreck of her railgun. Her message was clear, calm, and terrifying in its confidence. To any species that believes their shields make them gods, remember this: every shield has a frequency. Every armor has a weakness. And every empire, no matter how advanced, can fall to something as simple as a well-aimed piece of metal moving very, very fast. Kinetic enough for you. The feed cut. The Taar'Ven Council watched in silence. And for the first time in centuries, the galaxy's most powerful empire felt something it hadn't known since its birth: fear.